Good evening and welcome to Resistance Chicks. This is Michelle and this is my sister Leah. We're coming to you April 19th, 2017. It is a Wednesday. What have we got, Leah?
Okay, so Becca, I think on April 13th, the story broke that a doctor had performed two female genital mutilations on two little girls. Now, this case is extremely disturbing. The details of the case are extremely disturbing, but what's even more disturbing than that is that CNN, MSNBC, and all the major networks are pretty much AWOL on this. This is the first documented case of female genital mutilation, Islamic female genital in the United States, and you would think that this would be a huge story.
Yeah.
But because it has to do with Islam and Muslims, they can't. It doesn't fit their narrative, right? It's very much like the Associated Press when they were talking about the man who shot 4 people
in
total
Fresno
and yelled Allahu Akbar.
Mm-hmm.
The Associated Press didn't put Allahu Akbar. They put in quotes, he shouted, "God is great."
We're just going to translate it for you.
Okay, so I'm going to play Tucker Carlson's segment on calling out the media, and then we're going to delve into this case and a little bit more into why this is important and to the traumatic things that are happening to females all over the world. And some people try to dissociate the female genital mutilation, dissociate it from Islam. But a key cornerstone to this case is that this woman's lawyer, the doctor's lawyer, is saying that she didn't perform a medical practice, that she performed a religious practice. So which is it?
Right.
Right? Okay.
Now on to a very important... Doctor in Detroit has been arrested and is charged with running a female genital mutilation racket. Ain't even to say that, but it happened. Dr. Jumana Nargwala, she's a South Asian immigrant to this country, and she works primarily as an emergency room physician. She's now accused of committing the procedure on girls 6 to 8 years old. The children apparently were brought from around the country by their parents, hard to believe, but to be mutilated. Now, the practice of mutilating girls in this way for non-medical reasons has been banned in this country for 21 years. But the practice is still widespread in other parts of the world, universal in some places in Africa, and it's considered morally obligatory by some Muslims. Now, these communities plant their roots in America. Supply apparently is rising to meet demand, which is exploding. According to the CDC, more than 500,000 girls are now at risk of this. That's a figure that's quadrupled in the past 20 years amid steadily rising immigration levels from those parts of the world. And yet, oddly, stopping this practice, which again is real, isn't a major concern for American feminist organizations, nowhere near the top of their list. You can check. You'd think stopping actual violence against women would be a bigger priority than, say, stamping out catcalling or sending women into combat, but it's not. Maybe they'd care more if the Duke lacrosse team were accused of doing this. I bet they would.
Mm-hmm. Right. And so I wanted to bring up the picture here, the stats on where it's mostly prevalent.
The darkest right here is 90 to 99%.
So in Egypt, 91% of girls have to go through this.
Then we go to the 70 and 89% here, where we have Ethiopia, Sudan, and Mali.
Right.
Then we go to the 50%, where we have Mauritania, and then some other countries that are too small. 30 to 49%. Cote d'Ivoire.
You don't have to read them all. You don't have to read them all. But basically, the major, all the major, Iraq, Yemen, Egypt, Sudan, Ethiopia, they all have a prevalence, some sort of prevalence that this is happening.
0 to 9%.
It's still
a huge number.
Right.
Okay, if you make $100,000 a year, we're talking about $10,000 that you ain't getting. It's a big deal. Okay.
Right. But in Egypt, I mean, pretty much everybody, Somalia, pretty much everybody. So I wanted to kind of go over this story. So what's really cool about this is that the day it happens, Donald Trump's feds come to the forefront and they jump all over this.
I love it.
Okay, very, very, very cool in my opinion. The Department of Justice is committed to stopping female genital mutilation in this country, and we will use the full power power of law to ensure that no girls suffer such physical and emotional abuse.
Yes.
The acting Assistant Attorney General of the Justice Department's Criminal Division, Kenneth Blanco, said on April 13th. He says, female genital mutilation constitutes a particularly brutal form of violence against women and girls. The practice has no place in modern society.
Anywhere, ever.
Right.
Ever.
Right. So I'm actually, as awful as this is, you wouldn't see this stance coming out of a Barack Obama administration. So I think it goes to show people, and I want you to be encouraged, that there are good people that have been brought in, and especially with, you know, the rise of radical Islamic Islam,
right.
There are people who recognize it in this current administration, and they're going to hit it head on. When something like this happens, we are not going to allow this to happen, and I'm very encouraged by that aspect of it.
But I want to read that stat really quickly before you move
Sure.
on, because it says in slightly more than 2 decades, from 1990 to 2012, the total number of women and girls in the United States that are at risk for female genital mutilation and its consequences has increased by 224%, from 168,000 to 548,000, according to a government research report.
Well, it's because of the immigrants that have
March
come
and
in.
April last
That
year.
many immigrants have come in, and they're coming from these countries
Right.
that allow these things. And so I wanted to take you in Detroit. The case, Dr. Nagarwala's parents come from a Muslim community in northern India. She earned her medical degree with American doctors at Johns Hopkins University in 1998. She displays her allegiance by wearing an Islamic head covering. So in her conversations with the FBI, she denied performing these mutilations. The 2 victimized girls were allegedly brought by their mothers to Detroit from Klobakar's state, which includes a large and growing Muslim population from Somalia, and is the state with the 3rd largest number of vulnerable girls.
Because if you'll remember back to our picture, Somalia was right up there at the top.
The 2016 study says that roughly 17,000 American girls in Minnesota aged under 18 plus 27,000 adult women are part of this group, right? So the DOJ complaint says that additional victims have been found in Michigan. This investigation has identified other children which may have been victimized by Nagarwala between 2005 and 2007, including children in Michigan. On April 10th, 2017, the local CPS services personnel and child forensic interviewers employed by the FBI and HSI interviewed several minor girls in Michigan about FGM. In these interviews, multiple minor girls informed CPS services and forensic interviewers that procedures had been performed on them. Now, here's the thing. People aren't going to bring this to the forefront. There's probably thousands and thousands and thousands of girls who've had this done to them, probably in our country. They're not going to tell anybody about it. And so I really feel for these girls. I really do. And I wanted to bring to you this woman here. Her name is Ifra Ahmed, and she campaigns against this in Somalia. So I wanted to play her
Yes,
speaking here
please.
first.
Let's get a voice of reason on this.
Ifra Ahmed was born in Somalia and underwent the female genital mutilation at the age of 8. She underwent the operation with 9 other girls, one of whom later died from bleeding caused from the procedure.
First thing, we did not know why somebody has to die because of the bleeding, using the same scissors and same needles and all sort of stuff. And then second was all being lying on the floor and so our legs tied together.
Ifra is now an advisor to the Somali Prime Minister on gender issues and is campaigning to outlaw.
First thing is to protect the young girls they help, because FGM has no health benefit. There is no money and there is no hospitals, there is nobody who will help. But if there is no FGM in Somalia, it will support those young girls to live their life. Because I have witnessed young girls who died already, three or 4 girls under FGM. So while we are risking young girls to be practiced on FGM and live in this world, and they have no money to go to hospital and make the girls to survive, they can die. So it's very important that Somali has to pass the legislation. I know it's not enough, just legislation, but it's very important that at least we will have some commitment, and then we can explain, because Somalia is one of the poorest country, and it's good that they have place on the FGM bill. If I can save one child or one girl's life, I want to save a girl and to live this beautiful world. For me, what has happened to me, it will never go away. But if I feel strong and I say, I want to let it go, but I cannot accept it to see a young girl who born in Europe, who raised in Europe, going through this.
So I also want to point out, because I know a lot of people have some, it's important that when we talk about Muslims and we hear from Muslims that we listen to them.
Yes.
And we listen to what is happening to them, because there are billions of Muslims in the world. And we need
They're
to
not
bring,
all radical Islamic terrorists.
oh, so many
Most
of them
are victims
victims.
of this type of atrocity of this religion.
Okay, so back to this case with Nagarwala. She says that she did not cut them, but she performed a religious procedure, and it gets a little bit weird. She removed some mucus and crazy stuff. I don't know what it was, but the girls said that they were bleeding, and they were actually examined by a doctor later, and they had been cut. There was scar tissue. So first she's lying. So she's a criminal. She's a criminal. Okay, and it's just beyond imagination to for people to say, oh, well, it's not part of Islam, and then her major defense is it's a religious procedure.
If you got any kind of religious procedure besides circumcision that involves going down into the nether regions of a child,
there is a stories of one guy who was actually caught in America and in prison because he used scissors on his 2-year-old daughter, and it's a pretty disgusting thing. And the idea is that it's supposed to make it so that females actually are basically sex slaves and that they don't enjoy anything in their lives. I mean, I was thinking about this all day today as I knew I was going to wrap my brain around this story. The Muslims are so perverted, okay? And I do mean the Islamic teachings. And they make men so perverted. We already heard from the Egyptian woman, as soon as you're forced to put on the hijab, men actually look at you totally differently. You're supposed to be covering up to be modest, but then they look at you as a sexual object, and all they're thinking about is sex. And then they make it so that like girls can't even ride bicycles and all these different things,
or motorcycles, or
yeah, like because they might be aroused, or and then they. And it reduces girls to being sexual beings, and so it's so odd that you don't hear. And it's not odd because the feminist agenda, this doesn't fit their narrative of what about me. And if you're a feminist and you literally do care about other people, then you're not in that group, okay?
But there are other feminists.
But most of the modern Western feminists are so obsessed with themselves. They have this victim card that when there comes along a real victim, they don't know what to do. Right. So they just don't do anything, which is what the Breitbart article was saying, and what Tucker's saying, what a lot of people are saying. Milo, came up with an article. Where is the mainstream media? Why isn't this headline news? Why aren't we talking about this? Why isn't this something that we really need to get to the bottom of? Luckily, fortunately, the doctor has immediately been placed on administrative leave. She's
Instead
probably
of being
still
arrested.
Right. If convicted, she faces 10 years to life in prison. And so it all depends on, what kind of judge she gets. If the judge sees, that she's obvious, if the judge sees Islam the way he should, then she's going to get prison. But if he sees that, well, okay, you were performing a religious procedure, or you didn't know any better, even though, of course, she knew better, then it could go either way. I don't trust really our judicial system in this country very much. But, like Cosmopolitan, Elle, Salon, they showed nothing in their search bars a search for Nagarwala or female genital mutilation on many women's sites, saying nothing on the story. Nothing. And then on the sites that did cover it, they left out Islam. They left out Islam. They just said emergency room doctor. CNN, emergency room doctor. MSNBC, an emergency room doctor. It's insane. It's crazy.
I really have a hard time with this. There's two things in this world that really hit me really hard, so that I have a hard time talking about, and that's the Holocaust and rape and sexual attacks on women. And so this is a very difficult subject for me to talk about, but Leah really kind of glossed over, and I don't want to go back to this, but it has to be because she said it so fast. There are some of you, I'm sure, that really don't quite understand what female genital mutilation is, and they make it so that a young child is cut so that she can never have sexual pleasure for the rest of her life. Like, literally, she's ruined. She is mutilated. She will never have that with a spouse. And the reason why they do this there is so that they can perpetuate and continue to treat these women as if they are just objects where they receive nothing from an interaction. So if they're going to rape them or even just have them as a wife or whatever, it is very sick. It is very twisted. And the fact that when you just talk about female genital mutilation, you just it just sounds bad, but when you actually think about what it is and what the intent is behind it, it makes you want to take a baseball bat to somebody.
During one interview, the first little girl revealed that both children traveled to Michigan under the premise of a special girls' trip.
I'm going to punch somebody in the face.
They visited the doctor, the 7-year-old said, because our tummies hurt.
Oh my gosh.
And underwent a procedure to get the germs out. While on the examining table with her legs spread, she remembers being pinched by the doctor in a place where she goes pee. According to a medical doctor who later examined her, the girl's genitals are not normal due to either alteration or removal and show scar tissue as well as small healing lacerations. The second 7-year-old got a shot that made her scream in pain, she recalled. In a picture she drew of the scene, she placed blood on the examination table and voiced she could barely walk afterwards. The parents admitted they took their daughter for a cleansing of extra skin, and a medical doctor later discovered an incision and a tear on her. Each girl was originally told to keep her mutilation secret. Based on the investigation, Swanson disclosed the reasoning behind the horrific practice. Some members of a particular religious and cultural community hereafter the community are known to practice FGM on young girls in the community as part of their religious and cultural practice. According to some members of the community who have spoken out against the practice, the purpose of this cutting is to suppress female sexuality in an attempt to reduce sexual pleasure. And basically, they're saying that they don't want women to be promiscuous. So... And it's one of those things where it actually they were actually given the membrane of their bodies and they were supposed to bury it. It's part of their cultural deal. You're burying your femininity or something and disgustingness. So
I'm gonna bury the people that did this. I don't have patience for this out of all the things in the world, and I don't have patience for the feminazis here in the United States that don't take this up as their #1 flagship cause.
Right.
All right, you guys, this is Leah Michelle signing off for Resistance Chicks, where it is not a conspiracy theory if it's the truth. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to Mass Faith 3 and Resistance Chicks. Ring the bell for notifications. Find us on Facebook and Twitter. We love you. God loves you. God bless. And I got to tell you guys, God is moving in this nation. God is moving in this world. And God is a God of justice. And justice will be served. Because when you watch stuff like this happen and you feel like it's an injustice and you feel helpless and you feel angry, that's where they want to keep you. But when you go to God and you realize that He really is going to make these people pay for what they had done, then you can kind of sleep a little bit easier at night. But that doesn't mean that you guys don't have to go out and share this, put the word out, let people know, scream it from the rooftops that this atrocity is happening.
Yeah. Yep.
I was cold all alone. No place for